And the chair now recognizes the chairman of the full committee, Mr. Smith, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To respond real quickly to what the ranking member said and her concern about the unreimbursed cost at Parkland Hospital, from what I read, the reason for those unreimbursed costs are primarily due to the fact that up to 2/3 of the births at Parkland are the children of illegal immigrants in the country today. It is not due to healthcare issues caused by carbon emissions. Dr. Shaw, let me address my first question to you. The chairman a few minutes ago put a chart on the screen that was produced by the Chamber of Commerce that showed that 42 states are going to be harmed by this clean power plan. And by harmed, I mean they're going to see a dramatic increase in electricity costs. These electricity costs, and there's the chart, are going to disproportionately hurt low-income individuals because it's going to raise the cost of everything, whether it be food, whether it be electricity, whether it be anything else. And so I very much regret the impact on low-income Americans that this plan is going to have. But I wanted to ask you, do you see any benefits whatsoever as a result of this plan's mandating the reduction in carbon emissions?
Chairman, no. As you look at, as the exchange I had with Congresswoman Johnson, the rule does not, especially from the standpoint of its impact in reducing carbon dioxide, does not have a measurable impact on sea level and or the global temperature. And to your point, Texas having a competitive energy-only market, that is, you only get to generate and sell electricity if you can do it cheaply, has naturally driven our electricity generation grid, especially in ERCOT, to be the cheapest possible. Any reaching in from the federal government to force us to then choose more expensive generation will naturally increase electricity rates. And unfortunately, those who are least able to afford it, the fixed income and low income, will be least likely to be able to take advantage of energy efficiency measures, and therefore they're going to be saddled with higher electricity rates and therefore electricity bills. So I don't share the EPA's optimism that we're going to have lower utility bills, especially for the low and fixed income.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman Shaw. Mr. Eisdorfer, let me ask you a question, and that is, do you think that this Clean Power Plan is going to have any significant impact on climate change?
Chair Smith, absolutely. We can talk about the incremental benefits of this particular plan.
Do you disagree with the EPA's data that shows it would only impact the rise, at the best, impact the rise in ocean levels by 1/100th of an inch?
I can't say whether I agree with it or disagree with it. I just haven't done that analysis. But I do think you have to start somewhere. And if we don't begin to address it, then certainly the...
But this is going to cost, by the EPA's own admission, which is probably low, the American consumers about $9 billion. When the administrator of the EPA herself was before the full committee a couple of months ago, I made the point that I just made to you about no significant impact on climate change. And she did not deny that. She said only that it could be justified because we need to show action, which I don't think is sufficient justification. She did not dispute the data that showed it would only impact the rise in sea levels by 1/100th of an inch, the thickness of 3 pieces of paper. And we're subjecting the American people to burdensome regulations. They're going to cost jobs. It is going to increase electricity prices and disproportionately hurt low-income Americans, all so we can show action, not because it's going to have any significant impact on climate change. That's what the administrator herself said. So apparently you disagree with her, or you're just not sure.
Well, Chair Smith, I think that if there are going to be costs borne by the public and the ratepayer, it is because certain plants are going to be dispatched less or to be shut down entirely, and those are going to be coal plants. And if those coal plants are generating less carbon emissions, that is going to have a measurable effect on the environment and is beginning to address climate change on a national and international basis.
When you say measurable effect, do you have any evidence whatsoever that it's going to impact the sea level rise by more than 1/100th of an inch?
I don't have that information.
Okay, thank you. Last question is, you mentioned a while ago that you were disappointed that the Clean Power Plan was only going to sort of have a half-a-loaf impact on the state of Oregon. What were you disappointed about, or what's the half-loaf that did not did not meet your expectations?
Chair Smith, I think I was probably arguing against the visual that was produced that seems to indicate that Oregon is in really, really great shape. We are in good shape for complying as a state, but as ratepayers, since we are tied to coal plants and gas facilities in other states, we do care very much what happens in those other states.
And I saw one chart that indicated electricity rates would actually go up in Oregon. Is that possible?
I think that's a possibility.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Eisen. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.